Imagine standing in the middle of a dense, unforgiving forest. You have no house, no bed, and no kitchen. But every 24 hours, a briefcase falls from the sky containing $10,000 in cold, hard cash. This is the ultimate test of human endurance. MrBeast has just raised the stakes higher than ever before. He's taken two total strangers, Hayes and Grizz, and dropped them into the heart of the wilderness. The rules are simple. Survive as long as you can. Every day you stay is another $10,000 added to your pile. When they first stepped off the helicopter, Hayes and Grizz weren't just thinking about survival, they were thinking about a legacy. They looked at the trees and didn't see a prison, they saw a gold mine. Their initial plan? Stay for a full year, 365 days, $3.6 million. They walked into the woods with the confidence of kings, dreaming of early retirement and multi-millionaire status. But the wilderness doesn't care about your bank account. It doesn't care about your plans. And as they would soon find out, the wild has a way of breaking even the strongest wills. The honeymoon phase of this challenge lasted exactly 48 hours. On day one, the adrenaline was pumping. They scouted the land, shared stories, and built their first fire. They even made beds out of fresh pine needles, laughing about how outdoorsy they were becoming. But by day three, the laughter stopped. The reality of their situation began to settle in like the damp fog of the morning. Those pine needle beds, they were itchy, cold, and offered zero support. The fire they built, it required constant back-breaking labor to maintain. And then there was the food. They started with just 5 days' worth of rations. As they looked at their dwindling supplies, the math stopped adding up. They were surrounded by a swamp, but the water was a murky cocktail of bacteria and parasites. To drink it was to risk a sickness that would end the challenge instantly. By day 9, the hunger wasn't just a stomach growl, it was a physical weight. On day 10, starvation was officially knocking. This is where MrBeast threw his first curveball. He offered them a survival starter pack, 10 days of food, spices, tarps, and actual fishing gear. The catch? It would cost them $50,000 of their prize money. It was a brutal choice. Do you lose 5 days' worth of suffering just to eat? They took the deal. They had to. It was their first major financial hit, and it was a sobering reminder. In the woods, money is just paper. Calories are king. With their new gear, Hayes and Grizz moved camp to a moving creek, hoping for cleaner water and better luck. But pride is a dangerous thing when you're living in the dirt. As the prize money grew, so did their stubbornness. By day 20, the weather turned. Freezing rain began to lash their makeshift shelter. They were sitting on a mountain of cash, $100,000, yet they were shivering uncontrollably. MrBeast, ever the tempter, offered them high-quality sleeping bags for $10,000 each. They looked at the briefcase, looked at each other, and said, no. They chose the money over the comfort. They chose to suffer to keep their pile of cash growing. They even refused to buy pre-cut firewood or cooking gear. They were determined to win this the hard way. To save even more money, they spent days hollowing out logs and lashing branches together to build their own boat from scratch. It was a grueling process, but they were fueled by a singular vision of a massive payout. Then came day 27. After nearly a month of failed attempts and empty stomachs, they finally felt a tug on the line. They pulled up their first real meal from the wild, a single slimy eel. In the real world, you wouldn't look twice at it. In the wilderness, it was a 5-star feast. It was the first sign that they might actually be able to provide for themselves. It wasn't much, but it was hope. You can harden your body to the cold, you can train your stomach to live on scraps, but the wilderness doesn't just break your body, it breaks your heart. On day 40, MrBeast presented the most expensive temptation yet. For $10,000, he would bring their wives into the woods for a short visit. For men who hadn't seen a familiar face or felt a warm embrace in over a month, this wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. The visit was a whirlwind of tears and whispered promises. But when the wives left, they took a piece of Hayes and Grizz with them. The silence of the forest felt heavier than it ever had before. For Hayes, the money started to lose its luster. What's $10,000 a day if you're missing the people you want to spend it with? The trees began to feel taller, closing in like the bars of a green prison. The nights felt longer, filled with the sounds of a forest that didn't want them there. The pull of home became a physical ache in Hayes's chest, a longing that no amount of money could soothe. They were becoming wealthy men in a briefcase, but they were becoming poor in spirit. By day 60, the easy life, if you could even call it that, was officially over. The seasons were shifting. The cold was replaced by a humid, oppressive heat. And with the heat came the guests, snakes slithering through the camp and rats scurrying over their beds at night. The lack of sleep began to erode their partnership. Small disagreements became shouting matches. Hayes and Grizz, once united against the elements, were now turning on each other. Hayes wanted out. He had enough money to change his life and he was ready to see his family. But Grizz was a fighter. He wanted to push. He wanted to see how much further they could go. The tension reached a boiling point on day 74. The air was thick with frustration. Hayes knew Grizz wouldn't quit on his own, so he made a choice. He reached into Grizz's bag and pulled out the one thing that could end the nightmare in an instant: the flare gun. It led to the most honest conversation of the entire challenge. Hayes admitted he couldn't do it anymore. He didn't care about the next $10,000. He cared about his sanity. In a final, beautiful act of brotherhood, Grizz looked at his partner. He saw the desperation in Hayes' eyes and realized that no amount of money was worth losing a friend. He chose the man over the fortune. Grizz gave the nod. Hayes raised the orange plastic gun towards the gray sky.